welcome back to the Overrun podcast. My name is Ed Bowder.
I'm Kevin Mazza.
I'm Jess Mastrocola.
And today we have 17-year paramedic and firefighter and the Vice President of Fire Department Coffee and TikTok star and enthusiast Jason Patton is joining us today. Hey, Jason.
What's going on, guys? Appreciate you having me on here.
No problem. Thanks for joining us. And for the uninitiated, give us a little bit of your background, a little bit of your story, and how people may know you in this chaotic world we're all living in.
Yeah. So as you said, 17-year firefighter paramedic in South Florida. I am also the Vice President of Fire Department Coffee. I started a little channel called Fire Department Chronicles 2016 that kind of has a fun look at fire and EMS, hopefully educates people from time to time, but kind of a fun way for us to relieve our brains a little bit, and it's gotten me in places like this, so it's been fun.
So talk to us a little bit about Fire Department Coffee, because I know it's a veteran-owned organization. You guys are very big on pushing that. Talk to us a little bit about the structure of the organization, what it offers, and then we'll get into the less serious and more silly side of EMS.
Absolutely. Yeah, Fire Department Coffee was actually founded right around the same time, 2016. Veteran-owned. Luke Schneider, the CEO of Fire Department Coffee, he is a Navy veteran, and it's run by firefighters, either retired or still active duty like myself. We are mainly an e-commerce company, so online sales, but recently in the last 18 months or so, we've aggressively moved into retail. We're somewhere between 4,000, 5,000 retail stores across the United States. We ship worldwide. We're also the official coffee of the National Hot Rod Association, and we're in NASCAR. We're moving into more exciting areas as well. So it's been a journey.
We're gonna move you from NASCAR into the National Hockey League. We're gonna get you into it. Start filling out the audience a little bit more. You know.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I love hockey, man. I love.
Listen, man, South Florida, they're picking up. The Florida Panthers have a hockey team.
Yes,
they do.
They have a hockey team.
Right, it's there. The arena is very much there, just off the side of a highway.
Dude, they killed it this year, though, man. They killed it.
They really did. Listen, man. I'm really excited for what our local teams have coming up for the next couple of years too. But yeah. So I'm sure people listening are aware of Fire Department Chronicles, but talk to us a little bit about how that started, what you guys look to do. I know Jess, Kevin, and I are big fans of the channel.
Thank you.
So talk to us a little bit about
where all I watch.
That's awesome.
The classic bits of things I've seen as a paramedic. It's a very niche audience, but it's certainly all stuff that we've seen that we can all identify with. So talk to us a little bit about the nidus for that and how that kind of built out.
Yeah, for sure. And first off, I think that's why Fire Department Chronicles has been successful, is when I tell the stories of things that I've really seen as a paramedic, and you have somebody, an outsider, someone who's a civilian that's never dealt with any of this, and they come in and they're like, "There's no way this happened," and then there's 100 comments below it, like, "No, this happened here." Like,
this happened on Monday.
It doesn't matter what language you speak; it's everywhere across the world. We're all running across the same people. Hey, honestly, I've said from day one, I'm not special. There's a million of me across, in all EMS and fire stations. There's some guy making jokes. If you ever meet me in person, 90% of them are inappropriate. I don't do it online, but it was me starting off, me having a good time with my brothers and sisters in the station. Then it kind of started morphing into something that turned out to be a little bit larger than I ever thought it was. And what I've loved is that I can actually find ways to educate the regular civilians or people, the standard people out there that maybe don't have misconceptions or whatever when it comes to EMS or what we do or the best ways to treat things. And I can educate them through humor, making fun of somebody. And I'll never tell which videos it is, but 2 of those videos were me actually involved, like personally, though on the side that with 911 was showing up to. So I'll never
on the other side that day. Yeah. So from the education side, it's something I think that we all try to get messages across to lay people and try and make them understand the industry a little bit better. Talk to us a little bit about some of the feedback you've gotten, I guess, from laity, because I know your channel, as I said, is hugely popular. Last I checked the other day, it's 2.35 million followers or something like that, which is more than the EMS population in the country, which is a really big, it's a big statement to make, because it means that there are people who aren't involved in the industry watching. So give us a little bit of the feedback you've gotten from the population. Are there people that have a better understanding of how EMS works or how fire response works? Like how has that helped kind of close that chasm between, the profession and the populace?
That was big. Where I really saw that gap get closed was TikTok. So TikTok comes out, I start making some videos on there, and it was a lot of people, younger kids or younger generations that never really identified with the EMS, or they didn't understand what it was. All their thought processes about this all came through movies or videos that they've seen online. So that's where I truly got to talk to people and kind of say like, hey, this is what you think, but this is the way it really is. That in itself has been met with a lot of positivity. Honest to God, I think at this point I've made, probably close to 500 videos or something like that. And it's very rare that I ever met negativity unless it was from somebody in my own field, like, fire, EMS, just, jerks being jerks, that kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
But we all know. Yeah.
Yeah. We all know the people. We all know the personalities.
Some of us are those people.
I don't care if you're salty, just don't be salty all the time, man. Like, let it go a little bit, But the general population loves the pieces of it. And the one thing I always try to come across in the videos is this may be a dumb reason for you to call 911, but you should still be calling 911. Like,
right,
if
yeah.
you're not sure, call 911. Like, let us show up, because we don't ever want people to be discouraged from it, because God forbid it is, an actual issue or something like that. So for the most part, everyone meets it with fun. And it's going to happen now because I've said this, knock on wood, it doesn't, but I am yet to meet someone who comes up to me and is like, you're a raging jerk. I want you to.
I mean, you've done a really good job of it, because I very much hate making fun of people that don't deserve to be made fun of. And I think you poke fun in a way that it's very lighthearted, and it could be anybody that you're making fun of, and it's not just patients. You make fun of other providers and yourself. So it's very relatable.
Thank you.
The one that I that comes to mind is that you did one about different kinds of drivers. And I think I've worked with every single one.
I was some of those were me when I first started driving. The stoptional thing was something I said to my captain. I just I stopped and then just went right through the light. I didn't actually come to a full stop. He's like, that was a stop sign. I was like, there's stoptional. He's like, so if you ever say that to me again, you're never driving again. And I was like,
where is
it's one of the things that I really enjoy about the channel is I think, and certainly something that we've talked about on the show, I mean, at this point ad infinitum, is, how do we kind of get the public to understand what it is we do and why it's important? Because we've all had that moment, and again, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about specifically, Jason, is I think you found a way to kind of get a lot of the annoyance and frustration that we have in the field. You've sort of normalized it, which is great, because we're not very good at handling stress at all, or debriefing at all. So I think it's a good medium to at least start a conversation and be like, hey, I have noticed that a lot of overdoses are wet. Why is I had an old partner, that was her question. She's like, why is every single overdose wet?
Yep.
And it was just one of those things. And I think putting that out into just kind of into the public, no, this is what we see all the time. I don't care, that you've called 911. It's great that you did, and that we're going to go get you checked out of the hospital, but I don't want you to feel like you're the first person who's called for this. And I think that's hugely important, especially among the lay population, because, people will see television or other forms of media and they'll be like, I don't want to call because, what if it's just something silly, or if I'm just overreacting? And certainly we've all been to, late stage patients or pronouncements who are like, oh, they weren't feeling well yesterday and they thought it was just a silly thing. So I do really like closing that gap. Have you found that to be problematic at all? I know you haven't had bad feedback from your coworkers, but have there been things where you're like, we should talk about this, and it kind of just got to a point where maybe we don't put that content out, maybe we don't have that conversation, or maybe we change how we phrase it?
Yeah. That is the difficulty of anything when it comes to social media and our professions, is that we want to use station humor and put it on the internet, and then we get fired. That's the way that goes every time. I have found in general that if you want to approach a subject that can be very controversial to the typical person, you have to run it through a PR filter first, and then run it to almost like a sensitivity filter, just to see how can I. It's sometimes just switching verbiage and just using verbiage just a little bit differently, or even making the whole diabetic emergency thing. where the guy like picks the guy up and throws him. That was me. I was a rookie, brand new on the job. And we had this guy, every time we showed up, there was the same thing. He'd buck up and he was ready to go. And I had a bunch of guys that had already dealt with him. This guy was actually an ex linebacker. He'd just gotten out of at the NFL.
Even better.
And
huge. It's never a small person who did. No. He's a career bodybuilder. And he's a diabetic.
Yeah. And I jumped on, I was like, I got this, man. And I jumped on him and he threw me across his bedroom into a wall. His parents were sitting there and they just stared at me. They're like, yeah, great job, bro.
Yeah, we told you. I tried to warn you that's what was going to happen.
Exactly. But I think in general, yes, I approaching subjects in a fun, exciting manner to educate people that removes kind of that stigma of like, hey, you're dumb. Because people, look, that's what we're here for, man. Call 911. We're not going to be happy, but if it's really...
We're all dumb, though.
Yeah, we're all dumb. That's the problem. We're all dumb.
Everybody's an idiot.
And I think that's just humanity. It's just, we're just dumb. There's just different layers of it, but it's kind of the way it works out. So yeah, I've been met with positivity for the most part because people see it. It's not me dogging out people. It's just me like, hey, let's laugh at this situation. We can learn from it, and then we can kind of move forward.
And something that we've spent a lot of time talking about is also like mental health issues and things like that. And I think, opening up the possibility to like, hey, it's okay to talk about these things in a, less formal, less serious, kind of somewhat silly manner. I think that's kind of opened up the conversation to that as well. And again, as an industry, we don't deal with, stress and PTSD and all that stuff well at all. No. Do you find that this is sort of an avenue to get people to open up a little bit more where, I think it's easier, like no one wants to be the first person, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's easier when someone's like, hey, look, I've seen this on every job too, or, commiserating about, your shift ends at 7 and here's a 6:55 cardiac arrest that went out. And you're like,
every time.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go do that. I think
7. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, it does not matter where you go. We all deal with the same problems, whether it's, and it's obviously if you're at a busy department that's super concentrated with a lot of really bad calls, then you may accelerate that process. But dude, I work for a department. My station I'm at right now, we average 15 to 23 calls per shift. Like it's insanity, man. We run constantly all the time, and it's all like good and bad stuff. But yeah. The only call that's ever really bothered me, man, was and I've seen like bad stuff, right? So the only thing that ever bothered me was I ran on a guy who my dad had just died of cancer, and it was my first shift back, and the guy fell off his motorcycle, looked just like my dad's motorcycle, and he looked just like my dad, and I was like, okay. So I'm gonna go back in the truck. He was totally fine. It just had
if anyone needs me, I'm gonna be back here crying for a bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna go vomit and cry, and then I'll see you guys in a minute. But yeah, man, look, it always comes back to the same stuff. When you become a EMT or paramedic or a doctor, firefighter or whatever it is, or a police officer, you are supposed to be the most strong-willed, mentally tough person in the room at all times. So when you need to not be that person, it's very difficult to revert back to normal human emotions, because from the academy, you've been told it does not matter what you're seeing right now or how bad the call is or what's going on. You need to be like iron focused on the situation, get the person to where they need to go. And then if you need to run another call, you need to go do it. So it's very difficult to revert back on these like things that you've created, these walls. And it takes a long time. We are an industry of now. We need things done now. So we expect results now. And when it comes to mental health, that ain't the way it works, man. It takes time and therapy and, thought processes and changing and culture shifts and all that fun stuff.
And I think we can build out, there's certainly many problems. And, we've talked earlier, if you've been to one shop, you've seen one shop. But I think there's a very interesting overlap in problems between projects, right? Where, there's a ketamine shortage. So, no one has ketamine, or, we have a problem.
I have it all at my house.
It's mine. I'm having a great time.
Yeah, there's 12 of you right now.
Yeah. But it's always interesting to see like where that overlap lies, and hearing like just the same complaints from different departments about like it's always the same stuff, right? Management doesn't care. There's all these problems. We don't have enough staff. We have too many calls. Our volume is too high.
Yeah.
so it's interesting to kind of have those conversations across the board, like, because we've had that same conversation with people from across the country and for people in England, where it's the same problems over and over and over again. So I think it's very important to kind of get that message out to the industry. Have you had any kind of problems or pushback with management? Because, you know, one of the things that we're all very concerned about in the industry is if we try to speak out for some sort of positive change, then our managers can just fire us.
Yes.
And so I think one of the things that and Jess and Kevin, you're welcome to jump in for this. Like, I don't know that our employers are particularly encouraging of mentioning industrial problems on social media.
Given my current place of occupation, I am not going to speak about anything going on there.
That's a great way to go, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin's having he's in a bit of a pickle.
Job actions.
All I can say is that I do remember one time that Kevin made a comment, and it was very benign. Like, it did not point fingers at any particular institution, and I guess a guilty conscience decided to take it upon themselves. I think it was about them, and it totally was not. And they actually reached out to his place of employment at the time and complained, and it had nothing to do with that institution. So yeah, I mean, I think just based on that, we try to temper the things I say and watch how I say them and how specific I get about what I say.
So there's currently a very popular work stoppage that's happening in our state, Jason. That's where all that's from. There's there's some 1,700 nurses and staff that are currently on strike.
Can you tell me what state you're in? Or
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear about that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a bunch of people that just want money and safe staffing ratios, but
how dare they?
None of that.
Sons of bitches.
Uncalled for. Former employee of that system, so I can safely say that I agree with their sentiments.
I think we're in an unprecedented time in general. South Florida is part of just an area or a time that I've never seen when it comes to finances versus inflation rates versus like actual living abilities. It's insane. I mean, my home that I currently live in, and this happened before I bought it, went up about $150,000 in value in 11 months. And I had to buy it. Yeah, I had to buy it because I was renting it. And the guy's like, I got to raise your rent $700.
Heads up.
Yeah. And I was like,
some action here, Jason. We need some action, dude.
Yeah. I was like, what do you need? So I had to buy it to stop myself from like paying like outrageous amounts of money to stay in the state. And at one point in time during COVID, I went to one of my hospitals to drop off a patient. There was 2 nurses in the entire hospital. This is a level 1 trauma facility. Like, this is bad, man. Like, constantly busy, and there's 2 people in the entire place, and that includes the triage nurse. Like, it's so bad, man. So
it's that scene from Bringing Out the Dead, just keep on going. Don't even
yeah, we just walk in, they're like, I don't know what you want us to do, man. Like,
put them on a bed, I guess.
Good luck. That's how you do the vitals. So like, I agree with you guys. We're in an unprecedented time where, unfortunately, the means to be able to pay your bills or we're not able to do that anymore because bills have gotten much higher than the actual means to be able to pay them. So yes, I don't. My department has been incredible with us. They've been incredible with taking care of us, and then they've been incredible with all the Fire Department Chronicles stuff. But I think in general, man, just being able to speak up against people is a great idea. But this is my only suggestion to anyone that's going to do it to their own employer. Sometimes if you're able to come with a solution, or at least a little bit of a solution, you make the blow a lot easier. My chief said to me one time when I was complaining about something, he goes, "Hey man, I got a ton of problem finders, a lot of them." He goes, "But I have no problem solvers." He said, "If you come with me with a solution with your problem, I'm probably going to let you do it, man, or figure out how to fix the problem." So it is what it is, man. There's not a whole lot we can do. They're going to figure out how to pay the nurses right. And it is kind of BS when you have nurses that have worked there for 10 years and then you have a travel nurse come in and make quadruple what they're making. Like,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's
that's why I don't do bedside nursing anymore.
No way. No
well,
way.
I think it's going to be an interesting thing, seeing, because it used to be, when Kevin and I started, because we started our medic careers right around the same time, I think a lot of it was like the assumption was that like you'll go to medic school and then you'll go to nursing school because you're not gonna be able to make a living as a medic. Like it still is a pretty common red thread through the conversations of, what do you want to do with this, right? The question I ask at the beginning of every EMT and medic class is, why are you here? Yeah. And like the running joke is like, I assume you're not a sociopath. I assume that you want to help people. Like that's of course
they're getting practice, one of the two.
I know, exactly, right?
Kind of learn this gross anatomy. How else am I going to cut up that person?
I've done wrong. I've had a couple responses where like, you were slow to answer that question. But I think again, like having the conversation where like, there's no career path or livelihood, and our state is very unique because like in Florida, you guys have a fire model where at least in theory there's sort of a growth pattern, right? You come in as a recruit and then you can move through, every, couple of years, you take a promotional exam, whatever.
Yep.
And that's very much not the case here. Paramedics in New Jersey are hospital owned, and the squads are usually volunteer or municipal owned. So there's very little crossover.
It's so fun.
It's
and
great.
that doesn't make sense to me because
no, it doesn't make sense to us either.
when you combine the two, you get tax dollars to be able to fund 50% of it, we'll say, and then the other 50% of it can be through insurance charges or whatever it is. I mean, I think like the average is like 40% capture rate on this stuff, but yeah, that's what makes the most sense. But I get it. Look, down here, this is what we do. We don't have a choice. Like if you want to run 911 as EMS, you're going to be a firefighter as well, which I'm fine with doing both. But a lot of people don't want to do that. Like people who in EMS don't want to be in fire, and then people in fire don't want to run EMS. But man, if you guys want to make some money, we got to hold hands, man. We got to work it out somehow.
There's a couple of municipalities that, on the top of my head, that I can think of that do it, but it's not paramedicine. It's strictly BLS response. So
yeah, and there's also there's an industry concern too, because you mentioned EMS doesn't want to do fire doesn't want to do EMS, and I think in a lot of departments, and I'm not a firefighter, I'm aware that water goes on fire and that's how we fix it.
That's exactly it.
And that's not.
You passed firefighter one, Ed.
I'm to understand dryers catch on fire sometimes. I've never seen
it.
They
do.
But
not real big fires. But
I've noticed that it at least the feeling is that almost like that going on to EMS is like a punishment, and it's
in this state, yes.
But that's one of the reasons why like we want to talk to people like Jason is that just the cultural experience that we've had? Is that a universal kind of thing? And again, in a setting like the stuff that you can put out on social media where you can find like, I have to go to the ambulance again. All right, fine. Like, is that the, just like the general consensus, or is that just like, all right, it's the same thing like coming into work on a Monday, right? You're like, hey, people are going to call 911. Like, do they have to do that like today? Why? I don't want to, So it's always interesting to me here to kind of how EMS is perceived, because I think in a lot of places it's seen as a necessary evil. And that's the thing that we want to kind of like fix and build that out. So, I agree with you that we have to kind of work symbiotically, but how do we kind of close that gap without it turning into, like, how do we make it into like family members infighting amongst each other as opposed to like professions fighting amongst each other?
I think in general, the biggest issue with our industry is it is almost the brotherhood, sisterhood thing. That is almost the interplay that happens just because there are some underlining, like, that's what we like. We love talking to each other. Like, even when we like absolutely love each other, we want to talk to each other. Like that's just the way it is. I've been in one of these where like almost to blows fighting. We reach whatever peak or pinnacle of that argument it is, and then we're like, what do you want to get for lunch? All right, cool. We'll go do that. like that. It is what it is. But I will say this. Most people in Florida, we will embrace the fire and EMS side of it. And I love EMS. I love like the like second by second thought process. I love that. I know both of them are in the same room, or at least same area, because both of them just look to the left.
One of our dogs.
My dog is dreaming.
I was like, no way, they're in two different rooms looking at the same. But no, I love the EMS piece of that. You'll catch a lot of firefighters that do. We love it as well, because there is an incredible like humanistic nature to EMS, whether it is just the simplicity of giving one medication to save someone's life, or the complex nature of being able to talk to someone who's having a mental health issue or an anxiety attack, and you're able to work with them to figure out that situation and interplay issues with family members as well, because there's a complex nature to all of EMS, just like there is in fire. So I appreciate both sides of it. And yes, there is that, like, you're on the box today, Jay, like, oh my God, like, why?
Great. Good.
But it's not because I don't want to run EMS calls. It's because I'm tired of getting punched in the face by people that are like, yeah, my knee, like last shift, I hurt my knee in a car accident 2 months ago. Like, and
it's an emergency at 2:00 in the morning now. Cool. Good.
Right now, there's clothes all over the place. The boyfriend and the girlfriend got in a fight, and the guy just wanted to go to the hospital to get out of there. I'm like, whatever, just get the truck. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of
I had a job that I'm sure I've talked about on the show before, but the long and the short of it was Thanksgiving, and this guy was just done with his mother-in-law. So he called 911 complaining of chest pain. I was a brand new medic. I think I had been certified for like 3 months. And so this guy is just like, oh, chest pain in my arm. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, here we go. Let's 4 lead, 12 lead, see what's going on. His wife and his mother-in-law leave for the hospital, and my guy leans in. He's like, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. And like I'm just like, oh well, so far your tests are looking good. Your blood pressure looks good. And he was just like, no, you don't understand. So like on the way to the hospital, he was like, I'm fine. I just couldn't do it anymore. My mother-in-law's been down here for 3 days. And when he gets to the hospital, he's like, can I request that no one comes visit me? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, man, you have privacy, right? So like 2 hours later, I'm cruising through the ER and I see my guy watching the Lions game. Just like, this is the Thanksgiving I wanted.
That's brilliant. That's
that will be a story I tell somehow through real things, but I got to figure out how to do it without someone getting mad. So I think one of my favorite things about your content is you have an expression that you do very, very well, which is it's an expression that we're all aware of. Everyone kind of has their own thing. The what are we doing here look. Yeah,
is like, and as I said, everyone kind of has their own thing, but it's that split second where you walk in, you're like, hey, EMS, and you see the patient, you're just, what are we doing here? And they're like, well, you see, this thing started its day outside of me. Yeah, now it's inside of me. You're like, great, now I have more questions and answers, but I'm not going to ask any of them to you. Off we go to the hospital.
Those calls, man, I'm like, all right. Like, I don't want to know because nothing you tell me from this point on is gonna like change anything to me.
It's not gonna be helpful, that's for sure.
No.
So what happened? You fell, huh?
Yeah.
Perfect. That's great. I'm gonna put that in my nemesis details in my chart.
So I guess the overarching question, and we'll wrap it up a little bit after this, is we're in a position where the industry is kind of, not building as effectively as we all think that it should. So what I want to ask you as a seasoned provider, as someone who has business acumen, and as someone who has this, this glorious crossover audience, in your mind, in Jason Patton's world, how do we increase recruitment and retention for EMS? And I'm not like, again, everyone's got a problem and not everyone has a solution. Mm-hmm. It's something that I kind of like to ask people toward the end, because obviously the goal is to make the industry better than it presently is. So yeah, in Jason Patton's world, how do we increase, recruitment, retention, and make the industry seem like something that is more worth joining than it currently is? Because I think it's easy to joke right now where it's like, well, why would I want to join an industry where people are going to spit on me?
Back station dogs. Okay, that's where we went wrong.
All Dalmatians, all dogs are good.
Everyone gets a Dalmatian.
Everyone gets a dog.
Everyone takes one home. I think that it's like multifolded to answer that, but I think because when I started as an EMT in 2000, when did I actually start? 2006.
Isn't that fun? Isn't that a fun moment where you're like, when did I start? And you're like, oh, it's been so long.
Dude.
Okay.
I had a student come in and he's doing a ride time. And I was like, how old are you, bro? And he goes, I'm 18. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yep, no, you're not. You get out.
No, you're not.
Get out right now.
So I think, when I started in 2006 or whatever it was, I made $9 an hour as an EMT. And then
back then, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I live in South Florida. It was still horrible.
That's fact.
Oh, yeah.
That's fact.
And then I got my medic, and I went up to, it was $14 an hour, but if I wanted benefits, I got $12 an hour as a paramedic. So, yeah, like crazy, right? And then I became a firefighter, and I made $32,000 a year. My paychecks were $1,000 every 2 weeks after taxes and all the fun stuff. So, but I had
Come on down to EMS, make fat stacks every week.
Dude, like insane, right? So what I had though was I had a goal at the end of, like, I knew that, like you said, there was going to be promotions and hopefully pay raises and so on and so forth. So I at least had something to look forward to. But I will say this, on our side, as fresh 18-year-old firefighters and paramedics, or just EMTs or whatever it is, have a realistic understanding of like what you can make as a fresh EMT out of school. Like, just understand that and know you're probably going to work a second job. Do you want to do that? No, I didn't want to do that, but it's kind of a part of what we kind of do as we come in. Or just have an understanding that when you go to EMT school, your only choice is to then go to paramedic school and then figure out another way to make some extra money, that kind of thing. Should that be the way reality is? Absolutely not. It should never be like that. But it kind of is part of the process. When I was a mechanic, I started as a mechanic at 18 years old. I made $7.50 an hour is what I made as a mechanic. So, and I had to go to school, and it was a big thing. So on our side, realistic expectations coming in that as a fresh young person, you're probably going to have to work a little more than your average person and get a little overtime, but it'll all pay off in the end. As an industry, we need to figure out ways to supplement things a little bit better, whether it is doing the inevitable thing of trying to make fire and EMS come together so we can hit both sides of it, or figure out a way to either get a better capture rate for insurances, and that comes on us as well. We got to actually get information. I fucking hate
What's address?
Yeah, I hate that. Everybody was Jane Doe for a day with me. I was like, this place. So that does come better on our side. But is there a better way? Can we do EMS taxes? Is there a way to actually get into, like, on a state level, say, hey, we are losing people, and when you call 911, no one's showing up because we can only have so many people that want to volunteer. No one wants to do this stuff for free on EMS or fire side. So what do? Can we tax, a $10 tax a year per resident, or 0.01% that will at least allow us to pay people appropriately? There's only so many ways you can do it. This is way outside of anything that that I at least have thought of. But like, legalizing marijuana will most likely bring in so much tax dollars that it could probably help supplement a lot of this stuff. And if you do that and you say, hey, if we legalize that, then X amount of dollars goes to first responders, fire, EMS, police, whatever it is. Yeah, some people are gonna be like, marijuana.
We're
devil's lettuce.
We're in
New
Jersey.
Jersey. That was one of their chief pitches when legalization debate came up in New Jersey. Was we're trying to find ways to increase the tax revenue base, and here's an entirely untouched market.
And I don't know if how you guys feel about this, but this is just my personal experience. This is my own personal experience. In 17 years, I've never seen someone smoke a joint and beat the shit out of someone. Not once. Not one time. Now that has been laced with something, and obviously if you abuse something, it can always go poorly. But
a lot of that is appeal to anecdote. And I don't know if you've ever taken in the 1931 masterpiece Reefer Madness, but I cannot.
No.
I cannot recommend it more. So these guys know I'm an old film guy, and
Yes.
so Reefer Madness was essentially a propaganda film that was done. I swear to God, it was done to encourage the illegalization of hemp, because the cotton industry wanted hemp to be illegal. So there's a whole film.
Can't with the cotton industry.
There's a scene in the film where a guy smokes a joint and then jumps out a second-story courthouse window where he was on trial for murder that he committed while also high on weed. Like,
are we sure we aren't talking about another type of illicit
drug?
Nope.
No, it's the movie.
Very much like if you smoke, you're going to lose your mind, and that's kind of what that was the impetus for a lot of this stuff. Was people saw the film. They're like, oh my God, marijuana makes you crazy. Even the term marijuana is a derivative racist term because we attributed it to Hispanic people. That's why like you hear a lot of advocates talking about cannabis and not marijuana. But no, I highly recommend the film. Welcome to Ed's Movie Corner, where I talk about
Ed, let's talk about Birth of a Nation.
No, I did watch a lady doing like something about like drug prevention with a bunch of mothers and fathers, and some of the information was really good. But she brought up marijuana, man, and the whole time I'm watching her, I'm like flabbergasted. Listen to this lady. She's like, oh yeah, I saw a kid smoke a regular joint, and he murdered his whole family. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
it's like the people who say like, "Oh, I defibrillated Graham and flew across the room." Like
that joint probably kept him from doing it sooner. That joint was standing between them and the end.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm 100% data driven stuff, and that's like if there's data behind marijuana that said that hey, you smoke this, you're 100% going to do crack next week, then, you know, I'm against that, obviously. But if there's no real data behind like marijuana being bad for people, who cares, man? I can tell you right now, I've seen alcohol destroy more people's lives than anything in the world, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I like whiskey. I love whiskey and bourbons, but
I'm an ex-ER nurse, and I think that's like most of the sadness that comes through there.
Well, it's the old Homer Simpson thing, right? Alcohol is the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
Yeah. That is true. And that's go right along with that. Like, you drink too much, you wake up hungover. The only way to fix it is have enough drink.
Whiskey the dog, man. Listen, winners never quit and quitters never win.
There you go. Welcome to the podcast that gets us all fired. All right.
Jason, thank you so much for your time, man. I'm going to give you the last word on anything, whatever you feel like stating about the industry or the educational processes that we're going through, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, no, listen, find different ways to get educated, find different ways to educate people, whether it's through comedy or just through direct contact with people. Spreading knowledge, I believe, is the greatest thing that anyone can do. And just in the beginning of the day, set realistic expectations with yourself. Try to wake up content with your life, not happy, because contentment can always go up or down, but the next day you always come back to the same baseline. So find a good content place and you will most likely be able to live a good, positive life.
Awesome. From the Fire Department Chronicles, thank you so much, Jason Patton. And for the Overrun, I'm Ed Bowder.
I'm Kevin Massa.
I'm Jess Mastrocola.
We'll talk to you guys next time.
Get home safe, everybody.